Hello, everyone, and welcome back to Hate Spinnerbait, the podcast where we hate spinnerbait. Where we hate spinnerbait. I said that right. But we love Spotify Wrapped. Even though Spotify Wrapped was worse this year than it was last year, for sure.
Sad about that.
Yeah. They replaced a bunch of stuff with like AI, so it wasn't.
Oh, that's dumb. Yeah, I don't like that remotely as much, for sure. I am an Apple Replay girly, but I'm just gonna call it Wrapped because no one says Apple Replay. What was your Apple Replay? So my Wrapped, whatever. But I use Apple Music as my app of choice for music listening pleasure, and it's the same. Yes, we should probably introduce ourselves.
Oh.
I'm Bethany.
Michael Ann, welcome.
We just started. We're so excited to talk about. It's such a funny thing that genuinely everyone does get excited about. And we all know what our number one is going to be. Like, this is not like a surprise thing, but there are other things that are surprising. Like, my number one song always kind of takes me by surprise every year. I'm like, oh, okay. Or certain songs that I'm certain I listen to more, like, are further down than I thought they would be. Or like, there's always a few things that do catch me by surprise, so it's fun to see. Or like certain artists that I thought I'd listen to more, but weren't up there. People I didn't think I listened to that much, or suddenly, climbing the ranks. So let's dive in. We also have, so a little housekeeping right up front. Michael Ann cannot find the Hallmark movie that we said we're going to discuss today. So we're still going to discuss it briefly. I'm going to take her through a little recounting of it because I did watch it. And I just kind of need to discuss it with y'all because there are some things that are just like so ridiculous about this movie. Overall, it's honestly like a 10 out of 10 would recommend. Like, it's cute. If you like a little Christmas cutesy movie, it is good. But there are certain things that I was just like, only in a Hallmark movie. And I just need to share that with everyone. So look forward to that. We'll be discussing that briefly. But yeah, I think we both want to dive into our wraps. So our wraps. So we will discuss that. And yeah, I would also like to know all of yours. I mean, everyone's pretty much just sharing all of theirs on the internet, but I want to know all of them. I like looking into it. I had to teach everyone. I'm like one of the older people, quote unquote, in my office. And yet like none of the kids know cool things. I'm like, who's your number one artist? Like, da-da-da. And everyone's like, I don't know how to find that. How do you know that? And I'm like, oh my God, y'all.
Oh my God.
So there I was, just teaching all of the youth how to look up their either Spotify or Apple, like, rewind mabobbers.
Wow.
Yeah. So there you go.
Interesting. Are we just like super old? Is that what's happening here? Is this a millennial thing?
Yeah, is this a millennial thing? And I didn't get the memo that it's a millennial thing, or what? I don't know. But
I don't know. But it happened. It dropped today.
Yes, it did.
What's
your total amount of minutes? I feel like mine is like kind of low, all things considered, like my actual amount of minutes listening to music. But I also have to account for, like, I do have a record player, so I actually do listen to vinyl a lot when I'm like at home. And some of my time in the car and listening to, like, on road trips, I do like to listen to a lot of podcasts. I like split my time like 50-50 between music and podcasts, and my commute to work is pretty short. So, but also at work, like, I was like, I would love to calculate the time that I listen to like Taylor Swift at work as well. Like, I'd like that to be calculated into my time, even though that is not on my Spotify. That's on the work playlist Spotify. But I'm like, it's actually more hours than it is. But my total time of music in general was 12,830 minutes. Yes, was my total time of music.
I listen to a lot of audiobooks. That's like what I mostly listen to. But I do listen to music still, and I have my vinyl, and but I do a lot of audiobooks. But regardless of how many audiobooks I do, I still listened to 23,063 minutes. 23.
Yeah, that's a lot. Like, you have basically doubled my amount of minutes. So that's impressive. But also, like, you are work. Like, that is your work playlist.
Yeah. Exactly.
Is listening to your Spotify. I am listening to my office's Spotify. So yes. but I was like, okay, yeah, 12,000 like that. I feel like that rings pretty true. I did get this year some comparisons from this year to last year. It didn't give me my overall amount of minutes, but it did give me like, so I remember last year at the bottom of mine, this is what Apple Replay does. I don't know if Spotify does this, but it gave me my top artist, top song comparison, and top album comparison, like from this year to last year, which I thought was kind of interesting. So I do know that the amount of time I spent listening to Taylor Swift, at least on Apple Music, spoiler alert, not a spoiler, we all knew Taylor Swift was going to be my number one, let's be honest, was literally within like 100 minutes of each other. So I spent like pretty equal amount of time listening to Taylor. Last year was up a hair. So apparently I was listening to slightly more music on Apple Music last year than this year. Slightly more.
Interesting.
Yeah. So this year, I'll just go ahead and say, obviously, my top artist was Taylor Swift. And this year, apparently, I listened to her 7,350 minutes. And last year, I listened to her 7,439 minutes. So very close. Like that has not changed.
No.
Very much. So I was like, oh, okay.
Yeah, my Spotify Wrapped is like so dumb this year. It is not as good as it normally is. I don't have cool stats like that. It's a bunch of AI crap, which is so annoying. But now I'm trying to play it right now and see how many minutes I listened to Taylor Swift. My biggest listening day was July 20th. What happened?
Yeah, what was going on July 20th? You were just really feeling the jams.
I was 704 minutes somehow.
That is a lot of, what were you doing on July 20th?
I don't know. It was a Saturday. I listened to 323 artists.
Oh, I listened to, let's see what it says. Top songs. I listened to 375 total artists this year, which like that is something that surprises me because I'm like, I feel like I listened to 2 artists. I'm like, really? I did? I listened to the same like 5 people, but all right. If you say so.
I know. I'm actually surprised by that number. You know what it is too, probably, is I listen to so many instrumentals.
That like, yeah. That definitely probably would add up.
Here is my top artist is Taylor Swift, obviously. We spent 9,000 minutes together, 9,409.
Yes.
I'm in the top 1%.
Hells yeah.
Yeah. My top song was Down Bad.
Down Bad. My top song is, I had everyone, because everyone, of course, at work knew what my top artist was going to be. So I was like, for funsies, let's guess the top song. So I would like to preface this by saying, y'all, okay, apparently, according to Apple Replay, I listened to 881 songs this year. I would like everyone to know that it isn't until number 10 that you will find a song that isn't on Tortured Poets. 9 of my top 10 songs are from one album, and I'm not mad about it. I was like, wow, I know that I was like really jamming out to the old anthology this year, but I don't, of my top 15, because that's like as much as it'll show me. Let me see. So 12 of the 15 are from TTPD, which is insane.
I love that.
So what do you think, knowing that, again, 12 songs from the Tortured Poets Department anthology version, obviously, is what I've been listening to. What do you think is my number 1 song, if you had to guess?
Florida.
That's a really good guess. It is shockingly not Florida. That is my number 3 song. My number 1 song is Who's Afraid of Little Old Me? Which I do. Sense. Yeah. This is a fun stat that I don't remember from last year. So either they had it and I don't remember, or it's a new stat to replay, but it also will break things down by month for you. And so it'll tell you like the amount of minutes you listened to, who your top artist was, and then what your top song and top album of the month was. So January, obviously this is pre-TTPD, my top song was Dress, and my top album was 1989 Taylor's version. I listened to 338 minutes of music. And then this is where it gets fun. So obviously once April comes out, it pretty much turns into the TTPD show. I bet you there's got to be a month where I feel like, no, literally every month is Taylor Swift. I was like, is there a month where maybe it's Chappell Roan? Because I feel like there was like a month there where I thought all I listened to was The Rise and Fall of a Midwest Princess, but I guess not. But okay, but this is where it does get kind of funny. And so again, I can tell like it also you can tell when I start traveling. Like all of a sudden my like minutes go from like, you know, in the hundreds to in the thousands. So like April, the new album comes out. I had a couple of like trips that I took. My minutes were up to 2,300 in April. May, we like go to Sweden. We have the trip, whatever, 1930. So like obviously I was listening to music a little bit more. And then when you get into the fall, it starts becoming football season. So again, my minutes are a little bit higher. But this is my favorite thing. September, my number one song was Florida, which makes sense because that's when football season kicked out. And let me tell y'all, every time I drove to Florida, as I crossed the border, I did have that on. So I kind of thought Florida might overtake it because I did listen to it a lot this fall, but I guess not quite enough. But I was like, this is so fun that it tells you these things. So yeah, September, a total of 1,224 minutes. My top artist was Taylor Swift with 362 minutes in the month of September. Top song being Florida, and my top album being the Tortured Poets Department, obviously. But yeah, I was like, this is so fun. I love this.
Yeah.
So this was quality content that they like gave us all of this year on replay or whatever.
Yeah, yours is great. Mine, I guess I have a Wrapped AI podcast. So like maybe that gives me more data, but I'm not going to click on that because fuck AI. My top 5 songs are all Taylor Swift. Down Bad, Guilty as Sin, Smallest Man Who Ever Lived, The Black Dog, and Who's Afraid of Little Old Me.
Yes, slay.
And then Espresso, Good Luck Babe, Halloween by Noah Kahan, which is super uplifting. All of these songs are really uplifting.
100%.
My top artists were Taylor, Sabrina Carpenter, Chappell Roan, Gracie Abrams, and Noah Kahan.
I love that.
So I love my sad boy and my pop girls.
Yes. Gosh, don't we all? Yes. So full breakdown of my top 5. A lot of similarities, obviously, from last year to this year, with the addition of my girl Chappell Roan, because I was not cool enough to know who she was in 2023. That's why. But yes, obviously, okay. So top 5, we have Taylor Swift, number 1, Ed Sheeran, number 2. I feel like that's basically been a lock for the last like 10 years of my life. It's been Taylor Swift and Ed Sheeran, so no surprise. Number 3 is Chappell Roan. Number 4 is Tom Petty and the Heartbreakers. Number 5, and again, this is someone who I'm like, I don't think I listen to that much, but then I remember that summertime comes around, and I am a seasonal listener. I think we discussed this before. I have certain seasons give me different vibes of music. In the summer, I always do get a little like country nostalgic. And so Eric Church is my number 5. I really thought it was going to be Sabrina Carpenter because I thought I listened to her more, but she came in at number 6, so she like just missed the top 5. So sorry, Sabrina, I'll do better next year. But yeah, so that's my top 5 artists, top 5 songs. Who's Afraid of Little Me coming in at number 1. Number 2, But Daddy I Love Him. Number 3, Florida. Number 4, The Smallest Man Who Ever Lived. Number 5, I Can Do It With a Broken Heart. Top albums of the year. Okay, this is a funny stat. Y'all, when I say I'm a woman obsessed. Okay, so the top 5, not that shocking. It's pretty much all Taylor, and then again, the rise and fall. So it's Tortured Poets Department, 1989 Taylor's version, Reputation, Folklore, The Rise and Fall of the Midwest Princess are my top 5. Yeah, that tracks. This is an interesting stat, though. I would like to stress that literally on last Wednesday, a week ago from this recording, I went and saw the Wicked movie and then had started blasting the Wicked soundtrack. It's already in my top 10. The album, the cast recording from the movie is my number 10 album of the year.
That is so funny.
A week ago. And I was like, that is honestly hysterical.
That is honestly hysterical.
So that might be my favorite stat of my entire like little rewind mabobber, my little replay, whatever the hell they call it. Because I was like, that is crazy. That is crazy. Other things that I think are interesting. So yeah, and my top 15 artists, again, because I was listening to the original Broadway cast to get myself hyped for the movie. So I have Kristen Chenoweth and Idina Menzel made my top 15. Again, mostly just from listening to the Wicked soundtrack. So that also is just very funny to me. And what was another like funny thing? Yeah, I just love Artist by Month. Everything is Taylor Swift. And it's like, yeah. No shit, Sherlock. But yeah, I feel like those are pretty much like my stats. Yeah, fun things. I liked the month by month breakdown, like knowing what song
That's
I was
very
listening to
cool.
every month. I was like, oh, it's so fun.
Maybe I need to switch back to Apple Music and do their Apple Wrapped or whatever.
Yeah, it's very fun. I enjoy it. 10 out of 10. Would 10 recommend. I can't wait for Taylor Swift to dominate 2025 on my music as well.
Yes.
It is inevitable. I'd also like to give some thoughts and prayers out to all the girly pops on the East Coast who will be watching the Eras tour this weekend as it wraps up. Mike Lane and I were just discussing how late we're going to have to stay up and then be functioning adults on Monday. So my thoughts are with all of you. I'm right there with you.
I'm taking a PTO day, I think. Well, I was like, I'm like, I want to take a PTO day, but I made Zuko a vet appointment for Monday morning at 8:45.
Oh no.
So I'm like, I'm not going to be able to sleep anyway, but I don't know. We'll see. Maybe I'll just be like, no meetings today, guys. None.
None.
I'm
in mourning. I did tell everyone I would be in mourning on next Monday. I was like, if I'm a little off, just know I'm in mourning. I'm not gonna come in with like a black veil.
You should. Black scrubs.
Yeah, black scrubs. I'm just be like, what is wrong with you? And I'll be like, the Eras tour has ended. I'm very upset.
I'm very upset. But you know,
all good things must come to an end. That's what I've heard.
Things must come to an end.
And I love all the people's. Go ahead.
I was gonna say, and she's gonna do something else epic soon. So
yeah, exactly. See you next era, as she said in the beginning of the book.
Yes.
I love everyone's like mashups or theories about like what the last surprise songs are gonna be. It's really fun. Like everyone's already like getting in their feels, and we haven't like. It's not even the weekend yet. And I was like, I love this. I like watched a TikTok of this lady doing like a mashup of like what she thinks she should do for the last show. And I was like, stop it right now. It's not even her doing it.
You're on your own, kid?
It was like kind of like a, she did the manuscript, Long Live
manuscript,
Our Song, which I would not, but it was very smart actually, the way she worked it in. And I was like, oh, I love that because it's like one of the first songs. And I was like, you know, as good as Our Song. Like we all were singing together, like Our Song at the show. And then she did a little bit of You're on Your Own, Kid. But it was like it was a mashup of all four of those songs. Like Taylor likes to do her little like super bridges and stuff. And I was like, yeah, if she did anything like this, I would absolutely lose my ever loving mind. But we'll see. But then I'm also like, it's because all of us are expecting it. She won't do something like that. But like, even if it's expected, doesn't mean like, I don't care. Like, give us something that's going to stab us in the heart and make us cry. That's what I want. Like, get on that piano and play Long Live. Like, you know,
she will. Like, don't you worry. There won't be a dry eye in the house.
I have never been
anywhere else.
Or anywhere else where we're all watching it on grainy live streams. I also watch this one TikTok because you know how like we're all watching Tessa's live streams? Like that's what we're all doing, right? And this one guy's like, so it's the last day of the Eras tour. Tessa's on live stream. She's crying. I was like, I love that this is a colloquial. Like we all know this. Like it was just so funny. I was like, this is hysterical. Like this like Tess, like we all know her personally. I don't know this woman, but I watch her live streams all the time.
Same.
But I was thinking. I have never been fortunate enough to go to a Broadway show when it's wrapping, like when they know they're closing and they know it's their last show. But I've always heard like it's like a very emotional experience. Like the whole audience is crying. Like it takes way longer than a normal performance because people are like giving every song a standing ovation. The cast is crying. It's beautiful. And I was like, I never got to experience something like that. But like this is a similar vibe. It's like a show is closing. I mean, it is. A show literally is closing. But instead of it just being like you and the, this many people in attendance, it's like the whole world is getting to be there for it. And like that's honestly like, I don't know. It's crazy. It's a crazy thing. And everyone's like a few people at work today were like, no, like don't stay up and watch that. That's crazy. And then other people were like, no, I get it. Like you have to watch that. And I was like, yes, like this is literally like a moment in history.
My friend was like, just set an alarm so you wake up for the surprise songs. And I was like, no.
Yeah.
I have to watch this from beginning to end.
Yeah.
It's the last show.
It's the last show. Like you don't understand. Like sometimes I'm like, oh, I don't really need to see this part of the set, or like, oh, whatever. Like I, come in and come out. Like we all like pretty much want to watch the surprise songs or like whatever. But for something like the last show, like I'm watching it from, like this is the first bridge of the evening to like the very bitter end. Confetti is falling. Karma, final bows, whatever. Like I have to. So yeah, it's gonna be a time for sure.
Do you think we're gonna get debutation announcements?
Originally, I thought yes. I was like, ain't no way she's wrapping up this tour. Like she wants to be able to do that in front of like a crowd like this. Cause again, like I know she likes like doing her little announcements at award shows and stuff, but like it's not like nothing hit the way like Speak Now in 1989 hit, because she did it in front of her dedicated fan base, like 70,000 people that were so hype about it, and all of us watching on live stream and whatever. And I was like, I think if you're going to, Reputation is such an album for the fans. I think if you're going to announce it, like you have to announce it when you're with a bunch of them. But then, and again, everyone being like, her last two cities is literally Taylor's version. Like, come on. But then I was like, so this entire time I've been like, yeah, debutation's coming. But then I'm like, but also it's the closing of like the last 2 years, the most successful concert and like recent memory, potentially all time. Like not to be like hyperbolic, but like literally this might be one of the most like successful concerts of all time. And I was like, do you just let it have its moment? Like, do you just like, and not make it about something else, So like, I'm really torn. And I will say, this is my working theory right now. If she does announce it, I don't think it'll be on the last night, because I do think the last night she'll want it to be just about the Eras tour. So if it is announced, I'm thinking night 1 or night 2. If I was a betting woman, that's what I would put my money on, but I don't know.
Yeah. I was thinking too. I'm like, she's gonna want to put these eras like behind her. That's kind of what this tour is.
Yeah. Right.
And I was like, it's no way we're gonna go past the Eras tour and still not know when Reputation or Debut is coming out. But
right.
I do agree that she's gonna just want the show to be like its own. I agree. If she announces it, it'll be the first or second night.
Yeah,
not the.
I hope it's final show.
I hope it's the second night, because my friend is going to the second night.
Yes, Katie will be there on the second night for her like 18th show.
Oh.
Kidding, but not kidding. Let's actually count how many shows she's been to. Let me map this out real quick. Okay, Arizona, Atlanta, Nashville, Seattle, Stockholm, surprise last minute in Toronto, Vancouver. So this will be her 7th show, which is insane. And
that's insane.
3 of them technically are out of the country. Not technically, they are out of the country. 2 of them are being in Canada, and one of them, of course, being in Sweden with us. I don't know if y'all heard or not. But yeah, so she was talking to me not too long ago about the person she's going with was like, I want to do Midnights. You want to do Midnights with me? And at first she was like, no, because she did Midnights for her very first show. But then she was like, oh, there's something kind of poetic about that. Like the very first, but she went the very first weekend in Arizona, and she's going the very last weekend in Vancouver. So she's like, and also like she literally does end the show with Midnights. And again, when she went in Arizona, none of us knew anything about this show. None of us knew what outfits she would be wearing, anything like that. So she did Midnights very much in like the promo, like the music videos, like that of what she knew of Midnights. So she got like the little like lavender haze dress and jacket, and she's gonna like do that, which I think is a full circle poetic thing. If I was fortunate enough to go to 7 shows, I would have maybe done a full circle moment as well. So I get it. But yes, wishing all the girly pops that are going to be there on night 2 a good time, maybe debutation announcement, and the people on night 3, like I just like I'm gonna
jealous.
be crying watching a live stream, so I can't imagine what my emotions would be if I was there.
Literally.
I would just be like the hottest. Did I tell you? I don't think I told you. I texted Katie this. That I didn't realize until just the other day. I thought, but I wasn't sure because of course, like everyone wants to make like their show important. My shows were important, okay? They were the best, most amazing shows of the entire tour, obviously. But you know, everyone like of course like wants to think their show is important. But I literally learned that my Atlanta show is where the Marjorie Lights thing started. And I like kind of knew that, but I didn't really know that until literally confirmed for me last week. And I was like, oh wow, that's crazy. I was part of like Eras tour history because so we were the 6th stop, like 6th city on the tour. So we were pretty early on, all things considered. Like that first, like I think we all forget how like that first leg of the American tour, like all of us were in the tour like pretty early on in the grand scheme of the tour now, right? So anywho, Katie obviously went opening weekend to Arizona. I knew a bunch of friends, of course, went to the Tampa show, being obviously from that area in Florida, like a lot of Orlando friends, a lot of like friends from back home, you know, whatever, ended up at the Tampa show. My sister-in-law and like, you know, a couple of my nieces and nephews. Anyways, so I knew some people that went to the Tampa show. I was very jealous because they got You're on Your Own kid. And of course, this was during the like no repeat thing. And I was like, ding, ding, I'm not going to get it. And I want it so bad. And of course, now she's like done this like a million times on tour. And shockingly, did not get it any of my times, but that's fine. That's neither here nor there. But anywho, so we had Gracie Abrams as one of our openers. And I can't remember what song it was, but we started turning on our cell phone lights for her, which again, Gracie Abrams at the time had like never really performed to audiences like this. And no one had ever done that for her. And I remember her getting like very emotional about it. Like she was like crying and was like, and she said at the end of the song, she's like, no one's ever done that for me before. And I was like, oh, how cool. I can say that because I was like, when she's a big name, which like literally now a year later she is, I was like, I was at the first show that people ever like turned on their cell phone lights for her. Like that's awesome. So anywho, that happens, and then Taylor comes on, obviously is amazing, and we get to Marjorie, and it kind of started like slowly, like it wasn't like, oh, the entire stadium just knew to do it. Like it kind of started, and then people saw people doing it and started doing it, and she got like genuinely emotional, like choked up, and her background like singers were like looking like, oh wow. And so I turned to Katie and I was like, did this not happen? And there's because I just assumed like a song like that, of course people are gonna put their lights on. And she's like, no, it didn't happen in Arizona, but that's week 1. So I'm thinking like, oh, in the last few weeks it started to happen. And I remember at the end her being like, how dare you guys do that to me in a song that I wrote about my grandma? Like she she really like she was crying when it happened. Like she was generally emotional, but I was just like, oh, like I don't know, like it's, you know, this tour still new, whatever. So I was like, oh, that's crazy. Like maybe that's never happened before, but I never really like looked into it. Well, obviously with the Eras tour book coming out and her saying like Marjorie was something that just kind of like happened, like fans did it. And then now it's become like a thing that everyone always does. I like started thinking about it again. And I was like, why do I feel like it was my show? Because she got like genuinely emotional about it. And I was like, oh, that's kind of weird. So I went on TikTok and someone was like, hey, remember in Atlanta when we started that? And I was like, shit, okay, am I right? And so then I started like researching into it and everyone's like, yes, Atlanta night 2, April 29th. Because apparently on Atlanta night 1, people started doing it during Champagne Problems. And then I don't know why, but Atlanta night 2, we all started doing it during Marjorie. And then it stuck from there on out. So I was like, oh my God. We started that. So I'm very proud of my crowd.
Love that.
We also got the first Reputation surprise song. I do remember that because she did say that. So and obviously we got, you know, High Fidelity because April 29th.
My first show, Matty Healy was there. And he played. Right. Yeah, he was playing for Phoebe Bridgers, who was one of the openers. Yeah. His little toad self.
Yeah, she's like little rat face.
And then she played a surprise song. I don't remember my surprise songs. I remember the second one because I was like, oh.
Isn't it the like one that she like dedicated to Lena Dunham?
Yes. That like kind of just ruined it for me. She's like, my friend Lena is here, or whatever the fuck. Lena, whatever her name is. I don't know. I hate her.
I'm not sure how to pronounce it. And I'm sorry, I'm not going to look it up. I'm not a fan. Lena, right? Is that Lena it? I think. Dunham. I don't know.
Yeah. Lena Dunham. Yeah. Anyway,
Yeah.
she was like, my friend's here, so she wants me to sing this song. And it was, I think This Love. Did I get? I
That
think I got
sounds
Forever and Always
right.
and This Love, I think.
Oh, I love Forever and Always. That's a good one. I
Yeah.
also like This Love, but I wouldn't like it as much if she had dedicated it to her. So yeah, I don't. Yeah. But yeah,
Yeah.
I was like, wow, I'm glad that, because again, like when in the grand scheme of things, when I look at my shows, like Stockholm stands out more because it was Stockholm.
Obviously.
Because that was like a crazy, awesome experience. But I was like, oh, like that gives my like heart a little bit of love. Like obviously, I love my Atlanta show. Like, don't get me wrong, that's the first time I saw the tour. It was it, and it's like original iteration. Like, it holds a special place in my heart. But I was like, oh, like that makes me like a little happy that like my little Atlanta show. Like I have like a nice like cool little thing to say about that now as well. So. Oh, guys. I also already know that I'm going to write a whole sappy post about how much the Eras Tour meant to me this weekend.
Same. I've like already started going through all my pictures and like favoriting and making sure I have them already.
I'm going to do like a whole like picture thing and whatever. I love that like all of us are just going to do that this weekend. And like, it's so like, I can't stress. I mean, I know y'all have like heard us yammer on about it, but I truly cannot stress like how much this little tour, this massive tour,
this tiny little tour.
I don't know if you've heard of this little up and coming artist, Taylor Swift. But yeah, and I don't know. I can't wait for another tour one day. Hopefully, I assume. Yeah, I think so. I can't imagine that. Yeah,
people were like, "She's gonna retire," and I'm like, "She's absolutely not going to retire."
No.
Taylor Swift?
The Taylor Swift? Nah, son. Get the F out of here. That ain't happening.
She's young. She's thriving. She's gonna just keep thriving.
Yeah. Keep thriving. I love that for her.
Yes. My first show was really special because I just got randomly invited by somebody that I don't really know that well. And I was like,
so nice.
It was so nice. She was like, I have an extra ticket and I just want somebody who's going to enjoy it to go. And I was like, yes.
Like, I know I joke around that like I wish I had insane money and I could have gone like a million times, but I kind of love that. Like, I don't know. I'm like, would it, I don't know. I guess maybe it is as special if you go a bunch of times. I don't know. But like, I kind of love, like, wish I could be Nikki Glaser, who just like followed her all around Europe this summer. Absolutely. But like, I don't know. There's something kind of special about, like, I went twice. I saw it once in my home country in the original iteration. I got to travel somewhere cool and see like the new version of it. Like, I like that I got, like, that feels very complete to me.
Yes, I agree. Yeah. I really like that we got both.
Yeah.
The original and the next iteration with all the new outfits and like the new set. Oh my God, the TTPD set. I'm gonna miss it so much.
So good. Do we think that Post Malone will make an appearance this weekend, since he has never come out to do Fortnite, and every time people think he's gonna come out and do Fortnite?
He's on tour.
Another thing to guess about. Anywhere near Vancouver? Probably not. I don't know. I don't know where he is right now.
There was like one weekend where everyone was like, Post Malone is gonna be here. And I was like, he's in Brazil.
Yeah. Like, I don't think so.
Oh, actually, he is not playing again until December 30th.
Oh, this could be the time. I was like, I don't know. It's the last weekend. If they're gonna do it, it's now or never, obviously. So we'll see, I guess.
Yeah. And then he'll be at Coachella.
Let's say I think each night of the last show is going to get a special something.
Same.
So I think I'm going to call now. First night, Post Malone shows up for Fortnite. Second night, Debutation is announced. Third night, it's just like a love fest of the Eras Tour. Maybe some kind of special guest. I don't know. Maybe not. Maybe again, it's just like should be about her and the Eras Tour. But that's what I'm gonna call. And all of this is probably gonna be wrong, except for the third night part, I think. But I'm gonna put my cards down. I wanna see if I can win.
Yes. I will be filling out my mastermind this weekend with all of these thoughts in mind.
Yeah.
Oh my God. I'm so
I'm excited,
sad.
but I'm sad. I'm like truly sad. Women
But
all over the world
we were
are just
blessed.
mourning.
We
We
were
were so
blessed.
blessed. We were blessed with like 2 wonderful, great years. Also, all weekend I'm just gonna wear like Taylor Swift stuff. I'm making it like a full Swiftie appreciation weekend, and I recommend that for everyone. Enjoy your best Taylor Swift life. I'm gonna finish my Taylor Swift Christmas tree this weekend because I'll finally have all the supplies. So that'll be a great way to celebrate.
Look
And
at my.
it'll be lovely.
I got this little tree,
Oh, I love her.
and
Oh,
I covered her in
cute.
friendship bracelets,
Little
and then
friendship bracelets.
this one
Oh,
says "'Tis the damn season," and then this one says "Lord save me" because I thought that was funny.
yes. That is funny.
And it's so cute.
I'm obsessed with her, as she should be. Oh, yes.
I love
Y'all.
her.
It's great. All right. So speaking of 'Tis the Damn Season, would you like me to briefly discuss with you the Hallmark instant classic holiday touchdown, a Chiefs love story? Where I'm
Yes.
gonna briefly go over a rundown. I'm gonna say story-wise, this story was actually pretty solid. I texted my mom and I said, story honestly is solid. Execution, not great. And that's kind of Hallmark movies though. Like, well, sometimes the story is really bad too, but Hallmark movies in a nutshell. Anywho, and again, this is no shade to the actors or anyone involved. They did, great work with the material they were given. Okay.
Yeah.
So, anywho, essentially the shtick of the movie, it actually starts out really cute because she talks about how, like, there's no family, like obviously a bunch of people. It's not uncommon to be like a fan of a sports team, but like there's no family in all of Kansas City that loves the Chiefs more than her family because her family wouldn't exist without them. And it basically talks about how her parents, both separately when they were wee little children, got season tickets as a Christmas gift and then wear their season tickets right next to each other from 8 years old, basically, give or take. They don't say the exact age, but the actors look like they're supposed to be about like playing 8-year-olds. 8 years old on, her parents literally sit next to each other in season tickets. And so our grandparents end up becoming fast friends because they end up becoming friends. And then her parents become friends. And inevitably he proposes to her right there. And, is now Arrowhead Stadium. It used to have a different name. It used to be a different stadium. But anyways, he proposes to her and they're like, oh my God. And so she's like, I literally wouldn't exist if it wasn't for the Kansas City Chiefs. And you're like, this is cute. Like, I'm eating this shit up. Okay. I'm like, this is adorable. I'm into it. My family, like, again, as someone who is like a season ticket holder to a football team and like the connections that you do legitimately make with people in your section, like, again, dear family friends of ours, closer honestly than some of my actual family is to me, like have gone to every baby shower, wedding that my family has been involved in, all because my parents happen to get season tickets next to theirs, like this is what happens. So I'm like, okay, so this is right up my alley. So anywho, Homegirl is trying to win Fan of the Year, which is a real thing that like teams do give out in the NFL. Not really a lot of people care about it, but it is something like I think it's usually fan voted. I don't know. It's whatever. So it's honestly like a real thing. Tom Grossi, who is a big like on YouTube, was like sports guy. He's a big Green Bay Packers fan. He won it, and like no one cared. Like they announced him, and again, he's actually like has hundreds of thousands of followers on the internet, and everyone's like, cool. And they announced it at the game, so it's actually a real thing. But anyways, they're trying to get Fan of the Year, right? So you're like, okay. Cute plot. Like I'm digging this so far. So there's a new guy and he's part of, I don't know, fan engagement. There are a lot of jobs you can have in the sports world working for a sports team, especially as a team like, the Kansas City Chiefs, obviously big organization. I don't know exactly what the fan engagement, if that's a real title, how many people would be in this department. But apparently, according to this movie, there's 4 people. There's like this head lady who there's like 3 different families that are up for it. And this one guy gets assigned this family, which is the guy that ends up like falling in love with them. So again, originally when I kind of first saw this, I thought it was gonna be like a football player and this Shicky Poo, and it was gonna be very like Taylor Travis. But no, which again, the actual Kansas City Chiefs signed off on this movie. Like they were affiliated with this movie. And I'm like, what were their rules? Like what like script stuff did they sign off on? What were they okay with? What were they not okay with? Very curious. Donna Kelsey does make a cameo as just this lady named Donna who works in one of her grandparents' like restaurants, essentially. I'm gonna say it. Donna had charisma. I honestly thought she had some good chops, some good acting chops. There is like a couple of nods, which again, like one of the things I also really enjoyed about this movie is that we're on the positive still before I get into my nitpicky negatives, is that clearly like I really like that the Kansas City organization is really steering into the fact that they know that they've gained a lot of women fans and that they seem to be catering to them and they seem to want them. And I was like, that is really nice and really refreshing, to be honest. Which of course they want them because women spend money. Like, do you know how much money they've made since Taylor Swift started going to their games? They're eating this shit up. So anywho, they make it very clear. Like, I love that, of course, the main character in the movie is a girl who grew up loving football. I love that. Like, that's very clever. Like that. And again, as literally that is my family, I respect that. So that's a positive. The other thing that what was I gonna say? I just like lost my train of thought in the middle of being like, another thing that I think that they did really well. It's left me. Oh, so they do a couple. This is what I was gonna say. They do a couple of nods to like Tay Tay because they know again like what women are watching this movie. You like Taylor Swift and you've started probably liking Kansas City or started liking watching football because of Taylor Swift or whatever. Obviously there are people like me who already liked football and are watching it, but still. They know their audience. So in the beginning, when they're like going through this love story, one of the year that they happen to pick and like put on a little postcard is 1989. Interesting. I see you. Holiday touchdown at Kansas City, whatever, a Chiefs love story. So I was like, clever. So another little throwaway thing that they get. So of course her family's like very meddling and they want her to like fall in love with a guy because in Hallmark movies, like people are always like way too invested in your love life. Like I get that at family functions, like people do ask you like, are you seeing anyone when you're like an adult or whatever? But like in Hallmark movies, it's too much. And I was like, no one would be like, looking through the blinds, like, is our 30, I don't even know how old this girl's supposed to be in this movie. I think like probably in her late 20s. Is our 28-year-old granddaughter finding a love interest? Like, no one is that invested. So anywho, they're like meddling or whatever. And Donna, who works, at the little whatever, is there. And she's like, just let it happen. Trust me. Like, whatever. And it's kind of like a wink and a nod, like, like my son found him a whatever. So there's like a couple little nods to Tay Tay, but obviously like nothing too like overt. But I like that they knew their audience and like played into that. So respect. Anywho, so that's all of that. Meddling grandparents. The guy, again, works in like fan whatever involvement. And this is the thing who, as someone who actually like has siblings who work for an organization and also like a lot of their friends work in sports and a lot of them have gone on to professional teams and whatever. This is one of my biggest pet peeves. And I know it's going to sound really dumb. None of the people that work for Kansas City are wearing Kansas City shit this like entire movie. And that is unrealistic. And here's why. Because you work for the organization, you would have a bunch of their stuff, but like they want you to. You get a bunch of their crap for free, or like you get money to spend on their crap because like they want you to be repping the brand. So yeah, like this guy, the entire movie until the very end when they go to a game is never seen wearing Kansas City stuff. And I was like, unrealistic. Like your entire wardrobe would be like little Nike Kansas City shirts. Let me tell you, okay? Pullovers, sneakers, but you would be decked out in Kansas City merch, okay? And I was like, I know a lot of people that do work for teams. And I'm like, let me tell you what 90% of their wardrobe is. So that bothered me, okay? One of the other things, so the main plot is like there's this magical Christmas hat. And again, in theory, this works because sports fans are superstitious. Like my family is very superstitious. So, anywho's, when this guy first meets this family, he's not going to like an official, like Kansas City Chiefs business. He literally is new to town. He just started working for the organization. He's lived in Europe or something growing up. I don't even know. And so he like doesn't even really know that much about football, whatever. And so he goes in, which I like that. I like that they made the girl really into it. And the guy was kind of like, it's my job. And then through love, he starts learning more about the team and whatever. But anywho, so he goes to like, basically they're like, you need to go explore Kansas City, buddy. Like all you do is work, work, work. Again, total Hallmark trope. And he's like, I will. I'm going to go get me some of that Kansas City barbecue. It's so cheesy. So anyway, so that's how he ends about this restaurant, right? And he meets this family and he's like, oh, some great barbecue. So anywho, so then they take him over to, so one grandparent's on the restaurant right down the road. Her parents own KC Corner, which is like a little like basically Kansas City merch shop, right? And so they go over there and that's where there's a hat on display. And so they're like, oh, we want to give you something for like helping us decorate the street. This is where I get nitpicky about this. Kansas City is a metropolitan city that houses like a 500,000 people, residents. According to this Hallmark movie, it's like a tiny little town because it's like this tiny little town with a little street, and her grandparents both own, and they decorate the street with Christmas trees. And I was like, it's a city. Like, where is this Kansas City that y'all are living in? Because it's not, and they never say like, oh, we live in the suburbs of Kansas City, or like there's never even a throwaway line. Like they're just like in Kansas City, but they live in this like tiny town square. And I was like, bullshit. So that bothered me a lot. I was like, it is a metropolitan city. There is a lot of people. This is not what it looks like. But anyways, so
Have you been there?
to Kansas City, no. So maybe it does look like the Hallmark movie. But I was like, Kansas City is a city. Like anytime they show, as someone who watches a lot of football, anytime you're ever watching a football game, you know the first thing they do is show you the like Goodyear blimp overhead footage of the stadium and the surrounding areas. It's a city. And I understand that like not like when we lived in Orlando, which was a city, like not everyone lived downtown. So again, I'm not saying like you have to show me downtown Kansas City, but I was like, what is this little town square that grandma and grandpa all own shops on? Like, I don't think that's what it looks like. I could be wrong. I've never been.
My cousin, my family lives in Kansas City, so I've been there a few times.
Yeah.
And one thing I will say about Kansas City, and this was probably because I was living in Orlando at the time.
Yeah.
But there's like no people there.
Mm.
It is like a very like
Small
low
city
key,
vibe.
small, like not a lot of people. And again, there probably was like a normal amount of people, but I was living in Orlando, so I had no concept of that.
People. Yeah.
But it did kind of feel like, where is everybody?
Yeah, I was like, what is this little tiny? I was like, people in like small town America, like decorate their street with Christmas tree. Like, I don't like, I just was like, the shop owners were all, I was like, this is like, it's a city. Like, I don't like it just, I don't know. That part didn't ring true to me, but I've never been through there. So maybe someone who lives in Kansas City is yelling at me right now in the comments and is like, actually, Bethany, they are all little mom and pop, little small town things. Again, not to say that mom and pop businesses don't exist, because obviously they do in every city in America. But I was just like, what is like, why does this look like it's like this little nowhere town when like it's supposed to be in Kansas City? But whatever. So that's my like weird little nitpick. But anyway, so they're like, we want to give you this hat, or not this hat. We want to give you like something from the store. Pick anything. So he sees this hat in a case, and he's like, that hat, that looks cool. And also he's like really weird, and he doesn't tell them that he works for the team. And I was like, again, like if you work for a sports team, it's not like a trade secret. Like, and they do a line of dialogue about that, like, oh, I'm sure you didn't want us to know because people ask favors. And it's like, yeah, I'm sure you'd get that odd person and be like, oh, hey, can you give me tickets? But like, no one would go around and like act like a secret spy because they work for a football team. Like that's not a thing. Like you would just be like, oh yeah, I work for, because I'm sure you wouldn't even be the first person someone would know. Like it's a major part of the economy there, you know? But anyways, I digress. So that also kind of I thought was weird and kind of rang untrue, but that's just me being nitpicky. It's a Hallmark film. But anywho, so he's like, what about the hat? And they're like, oh, no, not the magical Christmas hat. And so he like doesn't believe their superstition. And again, like I'm very superstitious. I got it. But like the girl gets legitimately butthurt. And so she just met this guy this day, and her grandparents are all like, he's the one. And then he poo-poos the Christmas hat, and they're like, and she's like, no. And this is why I just don't trust people. And I was like, because they didn't like your Christmas hat. So anyway, so apparently their superstition is if someone in their family, and it has to be someone in their family, wears the Christmas hat, which was given to Grandpa by Santa Claus, according to them, then Kansas City will make the Super Bowl. But the rules didn't even necessarily that they were win the Super Bowl, because one year they wore it. They did make the Super Bowl, but they lost. So they go over all these rules, and then he's like, what about 2021? And they're like, we didn't wear it in 2021. We found out that Grandpa had a heart attack. They were in the hospital. This is their whole like sentimental moment. Grandma Patty is no longer with us. There's a whole sentimental moment about that. But yeah, so anyways, then he comes around because he's like, I've been tasked to write about you guys because you're up for fan of the year. And she's all like, you don't like my Christmas hat. I can't trust you. There is a lot of, again, like they all are really into Kansas City. They have the little fan thing. And so like he doesn't know what the importance of this one jersey is. And they're like annoyed at him for that. But then like later on, they go to like this fan of the year gala. And of course, like there's a couple like little cameos. Coach Reed is in it at the very end. There's a couple little cameos. Like obviously Donna Kelsey is in it. and a couple of other player cameos. And my favorite thing is like she acts like at the end when again they're at Arrowhead Stadium for an official Kansas City event and she runs into them. She's like, "Do you know why he's important to me?" "No shit, Sherlock, because he plays for the team." And he's like, "That's because like it's supposed to prove that he's learning about them and he's learning her ways and whatever." But it just is so like silly because you're like, no, like you wouldn't need to know all of his stats. Like all you would need to know is that he played because he's like, well, he was SEC Player of the Year and then he got drafted at this year. Blah, blah, blah. And I was like, all I had to say is like, yeah, because he plays for the team. Like Jesus. So, anyways, so that whole thing was just very funny to me and hokey. Overall, it was good. It's kind of silly, but yeah, there were just certain things like the fact that they were like trying to make it like small town America street was funny to me when I'm like, it's a city, but okay. And again, not to say that in a city everyone lives downtown. I have lived in 2 technically cities and I live in a very like suburban. I've lived in both like very suburban part of it, you know, whatever. But yeah, just some of it, like it was just very, very silly. I feel like there are a few other bits. Oh, so then yeah, at the end, they finally so they do kind of decide to fall in love and get together, and then the Christmas hat gets stolen. And then there's like this whole thing where they finally get announced at the Christmas game, which is another thing. I was like, when is this? Because like everything was like very much like this is when it took place. Like the Chiefs did make the Super Bowl that year. They lost it. The Chiefs did make the Super Bowl that year. They won it. Yada, yada, yada. And so you're assuming it's supposed to take place in present day, which I was like, well, how are they going to spin this? Because they're going to get to the Christmas game, but that hasn't actually happened this year yet. And we don't know if they're going to make it to the Super Bowl and whatever. So I was like, so how is this going to wrap up? You know, because we're supposed to like believe in this magical, superstitious Christmas hat, but we're not going to know the ending. And then the other really weird thing is that they had in whatever year this takes place, which I think is supposed to be present day, the Chiefs are playing the Eagles, which I think they just wanted to do because they knew how much like the whole brotherly love Super Bowl thing was a thing, and they had Donna Kelsey in it. She could wear her little half and half jersey. But they aren't playing the Eagles this Christmas. They're playing Pittsburgh. They are playing a team from Pennsylvania, but not that one. And I was like, so when does this take place? And I'm like really sitting here questioning it. And Mike's like, you're giving it way too much thought. It's a Hallmark movie. And I'm like, I know, but everything else has been like realistic. Like the Chiefs really did win the Super Bowl the year this happened, whatever. And I was like, and then we're set some magical Christmas game where they're playing the Eagles, and that's not what's happening this year. I don't know. But anywho. So they get a little lover's quarrel. She doesn't even know she's going to make it into the game where they're being announced as fan of the year and they're getting walked out on the field and they're getting VIP seating and this, that, and the other thing. And then she goes out there. Again, it would be like a 2-second thing. They would announce you and you would go away. And she's like, can I have the mic? And she's like, I have to announce to all of you that we lost the lucky Christmas hat. And everyone in the stadium's like, oh no. And then the lady's like, everyone look under your seats. Everyone now has the lucky Christmas hat. And they all have the lucky Christmas hat. And then Santa comes and gives them the real one. And it's a whole thing. And that's where Coach Reed gets to make his little cameo where he comes out and he's like, get off the field. And I was like, yeah, that is actually more. They'd be like, man, no, we don't have time for you to make a speech. They love each other and they go to their seats. They're asked by the owner of the team to go sit in his box. And they're like, no, we will go sit in our seats. And that's basically the end. And there they all are with the Christmas hat and love. And weirdly playing the Eagles, which is not accurate to football this year. But yeah, so I don't know. I don't know if in the Hallmark world if they made the Super Bowl or not because they found the Christmas hat, but I guess we'll find out in the real world soon enough.
I guess we will.
And that is a holiday touchdown, a Chiefs love story. It truly was. Yes. I hope you enjoyed that. I hope you enjoyed it. It was truly a wild ride.
If I can ever find it online, maybe I'll watch it.
I do need you to watch it. I want you to nitpick the same things I nitpicked. I feel like I'm not sure I did a good enough job explaining, not the movie, because you don't really need to know, but some of my little gripey bits. I'm sure there's other things I forgot, but yeah. But overall, worth it. Worth the watch.
Love that. Love that. Well, y'all, that wraps it up.
Yeah.
That Spotify wraps it up.
I see what you did there.
Let us know who your top person was, top artist, in the comments. We're on YouTube, baby. You can comment on YouTube. We're on Spotify. We're on
Andrew,
Apple Podcasts.
is just tipping away. Oh, wait, quick wrap up
He is.
story, and then we really
Yes.
will Spotify wrap it up. Speaking of Spotify wrap, my husband is a little weirdo. As you know, we love little weirdos here at Hate Spinnerbait, but he like listens. Obviously, he listens to music. He's a big metalhead, but he a few months back, randomly because he worked with someone named Nautica, thought of the 2000 and I can't remember 2007. I can't remember when it came out. Anyways, this terrible movie called Club Dread. It made him think of the song called Naughty Cal from it. And he played it for me. Bill Paxton plays this character. I think we've kind of discussed this, but it plays this character called God, what can I think of his name? Coconut Pete. And he's basically like a spoof of like a Jimmy Buffett character. Okay. So he starts playing this album one day in the car for me. And I was like, what the F is this? And then he had to explain it to me and we watched the movie and yada, yada, yada. So he decided he was determined to make Coconut Pete his number one artist this year. So he listened to this. It's like a 5-song album. Because again, it's just like the few songs that are in this movie over and over again. And let me tell you, to the point where like they are kind of catchy. And I sadly do know them pretty well. I could sing along to them. And when he dropped me off to the airport, for instance, to go to Sweden, that is what we listened to. You know, we're supposed to be having like this dramatic goodbye as they leave, and no, instead we're listening to Naughty Cow by Bill Paxton. So anywho, I want you everyone to know that yes, he succeeded. Bill Paxton was his number one artist this year, and all top 5 of his songs were from this movie, Club Dread. And he was very proud of himself. And also, again, we were like, who else was listening to this on Spotify in our Lord's year 2024? So he was 0.0005%. He was in the top 0.005% of listeners. We were cracking up. So he was mentioning this in a group chat between me and a couple of our friends. And my friend was like, so that means there were other people listening to this album in our Lord's year 2024. And I need to know who this is. So we need to get the little Coconut Pete heads together, we feel like. And so yes, I just want you to know that that is how committed my husband is to a bit, is that he will listen to certain songs on a repeat for months to make sure that it ends up being his number one on Spotify Wrapped. So that's him in a nutshell for you people.
I love that. I love that.
He's very special. It's so weird.
He's committed, that's for sure.
He's very committed to it. Very committed person. But yes, that is that story. Had to share that with everyone.
Love it. We love it. We love our little weirdos.
Yes.
But anyway, anywho, have a great week. Have a great weekend. Enjoy the Eras tour. Yes. We'll be back next week. And take care of yourselves.
Yes, please do. Take care of yourselves. Talk to you later.